Yep, ended with Debian. Manjaro is my new best friend. So I'm recorded this whole vlog about me installing Debian on my desktop right here. And like this is my main computer, and this is the first time I'm running Linux full time. I'm still dual booting, but the main partition that I'm usually booting into is Linux. So I went for Debian because I was like must stability, but it ended up causing me quite a few headaches, which I enumerated while I was going through the whole the whole video, and I'll probably upload it. It's just I kind of felt bad because like within a day or two after recording that, I ended up having some serious issues with Debian, more like bigger issues than what I talked about, to the point where like my system like just fucking broke, and I just ended up like well I have stupid pop up on my phone. I have Manjaro on a USB because I was testing it somewhere else, and I installed it, and that was that. But it just ended up being somewhat poorly timed because I was like, yeah, Debian's pretty good, and then like 2 days later, I'm just like, fuck you, Debian. So the story of what ended up happening is that I was trying to get some, I guess, drivers working for my iPod. I have an old iPod Touch here, fifth generation. It won't focus. I know it won't focus. Old iPod thing. And I record a lot of my vlogs on it. I have another old phone that I'm recording this one on. But I record a lot of vlogs on the iPod because I kind of like how the videos come out somewhat grainy if you have shitty lighting. And it records in 720p, which is pretty decent too. And there's a lot of storage on it compared to some of my other devices. So I like recording on this. So I was like, I want to get the footage that I have on here onto my Debian partition, but like I went to the wiki, and I'll actually, you know what, I'll pull it up right now because the wiki on this is absolute shit. Let's see, it was like iPhone. Yeah, here we go. Good thing it still remembered the page. So here's the wiki entry on here, and let's see, where was it? Updates. And it basically is like, uh, look at the Arch wiki if you want to look at this thing right here. But like there was a specific line I was looking for that's like we need to Debianify the Arch wiki entry on this. It's somewhere on here. But basically, it's like the last update right here was in 2018. Uh, so like even though Debian is somewhat outdated, that's really old. So like a lot of this stuff is not up to date at all. Um, so I was going through some of this stuff, checking some things here, um, and messing around with seeing if I could um, mount my device onto the computer and be able to transfer video files off my iPod onto the computer, which I would do normally with Windows very easily. Um, what ended up happening is that it didn't work. These packages didn't work. They installed perfectly fine, but it didn't end up working with what I needed. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll remove these packages, and like that was that. But like after removing them, I went to go through purge them and then auto remove. And here's where things get interesting. I might have done something wrong on my end, but when I went to auto remove the packages, I saw a giant list of packages that it would be removing. And among these packages were like important stuff like like all my Mate packages because I was using the Mate desktop environment. And I was like, that's interesting because there's no reason why these should be being removed. Because these packages right here shouldn't depend on those things. And regardless, auto remove should not be removing critical system features, right? So then I was like, you know what? I want to see what happens. I was feeling a little bit edgy that day. So I was like, I'm gonna see what happens. So sure enough, it removes basically my entire graphical interface of my computer, and then I ended up booting into just like a normal like after you install Arch, you don't have anything, you don't even have Xorg. That's what I ended up booting into, and I was like, huh. And then even though like even after I went to do that, like I pulled up NeoFetch, that still worked. That didn't wasn't uninstalled, but it still listed the same amount of packages I had installed before I purged everything. But it was weird because like Xorg wasn't installed and Mate wasn't installed, so I'm not sure what happened. Um, Something went wrong there. I probably did something on my end, but it was I don't it was just this right here, these few packages that I was messing around with. So the way I see it, nothing should have gone wrong, but of course something did go wrong, which is obviously weird because it's Debian. So that's why I'm feeling like it was my fault, like I did something incorrectly. Uh, but I mean, it could have been something more serious, but whatever. That's besides the point. It wasn't a huge deal though because I use a separate home partition on my Linux installs these days. Like after doing some distro hopping back in the day where I just installed everything on one big partition, I got smart about it and I started to um, install or it started to partition things a little bit smarter and have a separate home partition and then whatnot, which made it easy to just overwrite the Debian install with Manjaro because, like I said, that was on a USB. Um, and like I know like all the memes about Manjaro because basically like if you're using Manjaro, you might as well be using Arch. There's not really a huge advantage to using one or the other, I think. Um, Personally, I think Arch is cool. There's a lot of cool things about it. Um, and I've messed with it before, but I just went with Manjaro because I had it on a USB at the moment. And it would be like the opposite, like the yin to the yang in terms of like what Debian was and what Manjaro was. Because Debian was starting to give me some troubles because even when I did update to Bullseye, there was a lot of packages that were still not quite up to date as I wanted them to be. Um, Particularly, I don't think I had any issues with graphics drivers, but I probably would eventually. Um, but like with Firefox, for example, Debian does not natively have Firefox, like normal Firefox in its like normal repos. It only has the ESR version of it, which um, is only really for like deploying it to a large um, like if you have a company and you're like deploying software to a large number of people, you probably want to use ESR because it doesn't update as often. So you don't have to push updates via group policy or whatever as often in terms of like IT stuff and like admin stuff and whatnot. So like it's also like because most people or the most I guess they're mostly expecting people to use Debian on like some sort of file server left at home and on ancient hardware. Um, but like I don't think there should be any reason why normal Firefox should not be included in a repo because on literally every other distro it's just there and it's just available. So I think that's weird. So you had to jump through a couple hoops to do that, and then a lot of problems dealing with YouTube DL since I use that quite often. And you ended up having to install it via pip, and then bringing in multiple um, package managers is like I wasn't very comfy with that. Um, and like I was installing Discord via Flatpak, which I went over in the vlog. But basically, what happened was there was one package that just Debian just did not want to work with. It just straight up wasn't gonna let you work with it. It was like some sort of notification thing that when you have Discord down here, I don't have it here running right now, but it was like lib notify or something. But like it just wouldn't let you use it. So you had to install it via Flatpak unless you like I was doing some reading and like unless you build the package yourself without that dependency or something like that. And I wasn't really like I didn't really care enough to do that and try to figure that out. So Um, so yeah, so basically I went with Manjaro. What the heck is that? Oh, I think that's the coffee maker. Ignore that. Um, so I went with Manjaro, which is, uh, I get like I said, the yin to the yang of what Debian is, because Debian strives for stability, and Manjaro strives to be like basically give the casuals the Arch experience. So like if you're a lazy fuck, but you kind of want to pretend like you're using Arch, like you want to LARP a little bit, you can use Manjaro because it just comes with a graphical installer. It's pretty easy to do. But the problem is, and like what a lot of the arguments against using Manjaro are, is that like you don't quite get the whole picture of what's going on behind. Um, I guess like the whole Arch system setup. Like you didn't go through like do the CLI install and everything, which I've done a number of times. I've probably done it more. Okay, I've installed Arch more times than I've installed any other operating system. Just because I had a lot of problems. Like I was dumb and I would do stuff wrong, so then I would just like completely restart doing it. So I've installed Arch a bunch of times, and I know that install process. But so I'm somewhat familiar with like how what's going on behind the curtain, in terms of like Linux stuff, like reasonably well. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know everything, because I don't. But I've been using Linux for a while that I'm able to use Google and troubleshoot shit myself. Another problem with Manjaro that I saw when I was reading is that it uses a custom kernel, which could potentially cause issues for people. Like you see right here, because in NeoFetch it has a custom kernel. So it could potentially cause issues for some people, and that's one of the reasons why it brings into question stability. But just like with Arch, you just gotta be smart about things. Um, read the change logs of various software and stuff. And with Manjaro, you just check the forum or whatever whenever you want to do a system upgrade. And I guess you just don't do it all the time, and don't go too crazy with the R or the AUR, however you say that. So I've been using Arch, or not Arch. I've been using Manjaro for about a week, and have been enjoying the experience thus far. Um, because whereas like Debian, I would just have, like I would like, I need to install this particular package, or I need this particular piece of software on my computer. I might have to jump through a couple hoops to get it. Like with Firefox, you have to download it and update it manually, whereas on Manjaro, it's just there already. And Steam was pre-installed, whereas on Debian, I spent like a couple afternoons trying to figure out Steam, and trying to get that to work. I gave up like 3 times before finally getting it to work. And that was only after I upgraded to Bullseye, which is the current. Um, at the time, it wasn't current. It was technically testing, but at that point, it was almost frozen. But like after I updated to Bullseye, I had better luck installing Steam, which seems weird because you would think like software that a lot of people use like Steam or Firefox would work fairly well out of the box, but that's not how the Debian experience was, at least for me. And it, like I reached a point where I realized while it is very stable and I do like the idea of running Debian, and I think people who do run Debian as their main system, they're pretty based. I realized like it's not as practical as I thought it was gonna be. The idea of stability is nice, but you'd have a lot of trade-offs for it. And right now I'm messing around with the quote unquote bleeding edge. I'm dancing on the edge right here, a little edgy, but not super edgy. I'm doing the casual approach to it. I'm messing around with Manjaro, um, but that's kind of where I'm at right now with my Linux distro journey at the moment. Ideally, I'd like to stay here as long as I could, because um, learn a couple things, see what's going on over here on this end, and um, it's mostly ideal to have a more up to date distro if you're playing games and whatever. Um, but it could also have some other benefits, I guess. But yeah, I'm enjoying using Manjaro. I'm using significantly less packages than I was in Debian, because it's a bit of a more minimal install. And I'm currently using an XFCE, which I'm not a huge fan of. I personally prefer Mate more, um, but I just went with XFCE because I wanted to mess with it a little bit, and I think some more themes work natively with XFCE since it's a bit more popular than Mate. Um, but it's just an experience, and you got to get used to different ways about doing things, even though they're very similar. And I'm still figuring a couple things out and like ironing a couple kinks in my system, but I've mostly got everything set up the way I want it. And it was much easier than I thought it was going to be. It took maybe like a day because I didn't really have to, like I said, jump through a lot of hoops. It was very easy to install the NVIDIA driver. It was very easy to get my very important programs like MPV and my music player, Strawberry, and Steam was already installed, and like just installing like other like Firefox and Qbit torrent and everything. That was very easy because it was just there. Um, so that's like in terms of convenience, it's definitely there. Um, and in terms of like things that I've had problems with, I haven't really encountered any problems, honestly. Most of the things that like slightly bother me are mostly XFCE things. But like I've been messing around with a couple of games, and a lot of games that I've tested work very well uh, after installing like the necessary wine dependencies and whatever. Um, but like I've been messing around with Steam, and like I was having some problems with Steam Proton on Debian, but over here, uh, it just kind of works. Um, you just enable Steam Play and um, using the latest version of Proton. I was kind of messing around with Glorious Eggroll's version of Proton, but it was giving me like a little bit of problems, and I'm not sure if it was necessary. I think it was related to the game, but I'm currently using 6.3-5, and I got a couple games here messing around with. And then like a lot of visual novels work as well via Wine, but it's pretty good. Um, I guess that's basically it. Just kind I guess more of a Linux update type thing where like raving about like how cool Debian was to like 2 days later, um, either I make a critical mistake or there was a weird undocumented bug that I might have encountered um, with the system. Though usually when it comes to things like this, I'm more inclined to blame the like on the user side versus like blaming the software when you encounter weird issues like that. So I personally think it was something I did, but it could very well be a problem with Debian that just is completely um, went past them, which could be a very bad thing. But like I wouldn't even be surprised if it was, considering the age of this freaking wiki page. Yeah, here we go. Debianize and integrate those instructions into this page. Um, ArchWiki is good. Everybody knows that already, but um, I basically got everything rolling. Actually, the last thing I haven't got working yet is my Japanese input. I got that working in Debian, so I know how to do it. I just haven't gotten around to setting it up yet because I haven't used it yet. But that's basically it. That's I guess like a week or so using Manjaro. Um, it's pretty good. Feel free to you know, go on about why I should be using Arch or something. But that's I guess that's some observations and some reflections about that.